Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm Gigi Arnetta on this Tuesday, August 20th, 2013. Here are some of the top stories on tonight's news.
Tonight, was Princess Diana murdered by a British soldier? Then, the gun confiscation begins in California. And the Hastings toxicology report shows he wasn't impaired. All that and more on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Was Princess Diana murdered by a British soldier? The Metropolitan Police assessing credibility of this new claim made in court-martial of SAS sniper Danny Nightingale. The letter says Soldier N claimed the SAS was behind Princess Diana's death, and it had been covered up.
They have murdered my son and Princess Diana, and I put my finger straight to the gangster who ruling the country behind the scene, who is the head of the royal household, Prince Philip.
That was Al Fayed, the father of Dodi Fayed, who was in the car with Princess Diana, and that's from a documentary where he claims that Prince Philip was actually behind the murders. Now, Google Glass gets an app to power the cyber cops and future firefighters. The app would allow public safety officers and officials to communicate in real time via streaming video from the scene, as well as to receive and view key documents, including things like building schematics, medical records of victims, live feeds of security cameras in the area, and more. It's the ultimate on-demand intel platform for agents working in the field, and a way to stay in contact with HQ and other organizations even when radio systems won't talk to each other. Well, the question is, what does that do to our Fourth Amendment rights? And how do you feel about not only the IRS, but now the police officers just to be able to have your medical records? Well, the government just won't stop. Seems like they want to keep breaking down our Fourth Amendment. Administration keeps chipping away at the Fourth Amendment, considering what's come out about the NSA's domestic surveillance accidents. It almost makes you wonder why the government would bother. But surely this information is accessible by other means. In an apparent effort to be thorough in its dismantling of the Fourth Amendment, the administration has asked the Supreme Court to rule that this amendment provides for the warrantless search of cell phones. Is it really necessary to grant law enforcement the right to search through someone's cell phone without a warrant? It's certainly not a good idea, as cell phones today carry a lot more data than they did back in 2007. When the cell phone in question was a flip phone that held little more than messages and phone numbers. So that's not enough for them as they move forward. Now, what's interesting is they've gone to the Homeland Security and given Homeland Security access to the security surveillance blimps because going into our cell phones isn't enough. According to legal precedent, the Fourth Amendment, the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, does not apply along the border. By the way, the government contends the Fourth Amendment free zone stretches 100 miles inland from the nation's actual border. As part of this usurpation of power, the DHS has announced that it has the right to examine electronic devices without a warrant in the name of national security. So in California, they're confiscating guns. And in Egypt, it looks like the Obama administration has secretly decided to cut funding. The Obama administration has decided to temporarily suspend the disbursement of most direct military aid, the delivery of weapons to the Egyptian military, and some forms of economic aid to the Egyptian government, while it conducts a broad review of the relationship. The latest reports are that Obama's actually saying they're not cutting funding, that they're re-examining the situation. So we'll have to see how that progresses tomorrow. Now, the Turkish Prime Minister is blaming Israel for what's happening in Egypt. He says that Israel orchestrated Morsi's overthrow. Israel is behind the coup in Egypt. We have the evidence. Erdogan was quoted as saying in the Turkish daily Today's Zaman on Tuesday. Now, he's not the only leader in the last week to accuse Israel of using power to influence events in Egypt. Last weekend, Venezuela's president accused Israel and the U.S. of conspiring to oust Morsi and of stirring unrest in Syria. We have witnessed a bloodbath in Egypt. He was quoted as saying, "We warned that the coup against Morsi was unconstitutional. Morsi was kidnapped, and the responsible party for what is occurring in Egypt is the American empire, which has its hands in it. The United States doesn't have friends, it has interests, and what it wants is to control the planet.
All right, sir, how would you rate President Obama's job performance?
Overall, very well.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes.
Right now? I'd give him a 7.5.
I'll give him a 6.
Any particular area that you're impressed with?
He speaks in complete sentences.
How do you feel about Obamacare?
Well, I think sometimes it doesn't benefit me personally in terms of the changes that are made, but I think it benefits people on the whole.
I don't have health insurance. I don't look forward to paying premiums that I don't pay now, but hopefully the fact that we all have to sign up, those of us uninsured, will make those premiums a lot more affordable. And I'm going to join just because I think all the wrong people want me to sit on the sidelines and not join.
Having Obamacare will probably make the health care that they do give not as high of standard.
There's some strict premiums and guidelines with Obamacare, and we actually see employers actually cutting the hours of their employees so they can't benefit.
Well, at least in some fields where workers are short, let's hope that it becomes one of those carrots.
And what do you ladies think about married couples having increased premiums? So if you get married, your premiums are going to increase.
Yeah, I don't understand what his intentions are with that.
We see about 60% of doctors say they'd rather retire early than go through all the hoops of implementing Obamacare. How does that make you feel?
I think it's just going to take a cycle or two to really be able to prepare for this.
I think it's kind of scary looking into the future and realizing all these people who have worked their way up into these positions. And if you see them backing out, you kind of wonder, like, yeah, I don't know that much about the situation myself. And if these people who are knowledgeable of the information and know what's going on, if they're backing out themselves, it kind of makes me worried.
Where there is a gap, the market will fill it. So if those doctors retire, then we'll have more strip malls having doc in a box.
And some people are against Obamacare just because of the fact that the government is now allowed to make you buy a product or service. We just want you to go ahead and get this health care. Would you be for that?
If everyone had some basic coverage, I think it benefits the society.
And on that buying a product or service, we see a small town in Georgia now has a city ordinance forcing their residents to purchase firearms, to own firearms in their home. How do you feel about that?
There's a lot of people who shouldn't have access to firearms, so I think that's absurd.
Now, does this cross any lines as far as the government making you own a product or service?
To me, that's a totally different situation.
Stop by the InfoWars shop and pick up Doctored, the film the American Medical Association doesn't want you to see.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.